Good morning and welcome to the Pleasure for Health podcast. My name is Ailsa Kepi and I'm your host for these discussions all around anything to do with relationships, intimacy, sexuality, physical, emotional, mental health, and wellness related to our bodies and how we connect with other people. I'm really happy to have you here today on my live show. Today, I want to dive into a topic that I recently wrote a paper on to do with fundamentalist thought as a basically as a reaction and a response to a lack of safety in our own embodiment, in our own feeling, in our own self. So, if that's been something that you have struggled with over the last couple of years, maybe you've noticed yourself or other people. We often notice in other people more quickly. We notice that they are clamping down on their ideas, and you could call that a fundamentalism of their thought patterns, right? So we may not think about it as fundamentalist religious beliefs or fundamentalist political beliefs, but we've all kind of hunkered down in our corner, so to speak, over the last couple of years. And I think this is a really interesting phenomenon and way of, I never really thought about it as a coping strategy. And so that explains and allows us a little bit more compassion for those friends and family and loved ones that maybe have hunkered down onto their corner and it's different than ours. And we find that we no longer can kind of connect or share on any kind of deep level because we're all kind of needing to have this certainty in our life. And I think that's, to me, what fundamentalism really speaks to is this, kind of infallible beliefs and principles that we can just count on to be there and to be right and to, that we'll be safe if we do these things. And I can speak to this personally as, as my memoir, By the Light of the Crescent Moon, kind of describes. I spent many years as a fundamentalist Muslim. And when I was, accepting Islam and kind of moving into that, I was at a point in my life where I felt a little bit out of control. I felt a little bit like I don't know who I am, I don't know what I'm doing, and I needed something to come along and tell me, do this, talk like this, say this, do these prayers, act like this, and you will be a good person. Like, you don't have to, navigate your way in like open waters for a while. So for me, I absolutely actually know that experience of feeling lost in the overwhelm of trying to figure out who I am and what I really need to be doing in the world. And I just wanted to be told what to do. And I know that sounds weird, especially those of you who actually know me now. You're like, what? You want to be told what to do? But at the time, I really did. And I think a lot of people these days want to be told what to do. They want to know, hey, if you do these things, you're going to be safe. If I won't even go into specifics. I think we all know, like, if you take this pill, if you go here, if you don't go there, if you stay in your house, if you wear a mask, all the things, you'll be safe. And therefore, everything will be good in the world. And I think that's, something that we all go to when we are afraid, when we feel out of control. So the problem, there's nothing inherently wrong with that. I'm not trying to make a right or wrong statement. We all need safety. Absolutely. But what happens with that is that it makes it very difficult to actually deeply connect with another person. And I would even hazard the saying that it would make it impossible to love someone for who they are when we're in that fear and needing safety so much that we need the world to be exactly black and white the way we need it to be. This kind of doesn't leave space for love and acceptance. So I feel like this is an interesting thing to look at because we have been under extreme stress as a society for the past at least 2 years. There's been many stressful events, financial stress, food crisis stress. More people are sick than ever before. All sorts of things are happening in our world. Climate change. There's an incredible amount of stress. And, having been part of a fundamental religious order, for many years, I know how, soothing that can feel to be like, well, if all goes to hell in a handbasket, at least I have been a good person. I've shown up. I've done all the right things. And so this is something that I can absolutely see happening. So how are we going to rise above this? How do we learn to connect again? How can we create safety? How can we learn to be with each other in different viewpoints and perspectives? And these are really good questions. And I think we're going to be grappling with these questions for a while now, if years, if not decades. How do we, open up again and feel safe? And I think, coming from a relationship coaching perspective, this is kind of the same in a two-person relationship, or it could be more people. The more people, the more complex it is. But between two people, to feel safe enough to be able to hear what the other person's saying or wanting without shutting down, without needing our own view to be right, is exactly what's happening now in the world. And so, as a perspective, I feel like coming from relationship, coming from how do we connect can be a really good way. And, how do we feel safe in our own body, in our own self? This is also a really good question. Many of us are not feeling safe in the world at all. And many of us have not cultivated a real relationship with our own self, with our own body. Our culture hasn't really led us to do that. Where is the course in school about connecting to self? Where is the course in school that helps us learn how to be embodied, how to stay in our body and be present while we're moving through stressful situations? There's not that much out there. So we kind of have to come to this realization that we can learn to create our own safety. We can learn to stay in our body so that we can actually be present. One of the biggest things that I talk about with couples that I work with, particularly couples and singles, is that you cannot create intimacy. You cannot create a beautiful physical bond with someone, or emotional bond, or a working relationship with someone if you're not able to stay present in your body. Like if you go into fear-based thinking and kind of up into your head, you're not going to have that real satisfactory kind of physical connection that many of us have kind of been led to believe is our birthright, to have pleasure, to have great sex, to have love making that goes on all night. We have lots of movies and media that kind of put this in front of us like a carrot, but that don't tell us how to get there. And honestly, the question on how to get there is not to fall in love with someone across a crowded room and to go home and everything's hunky-dory and works right away. The way to get there is to build that relationship with ourselves and our body and our emotions and our inner desires and thoughts, and to really come to be that kind of, to have that kind of depth perspective of our own self. So we want to look at, as depth psychology is becoming more of a thing as well. This is that practice of going inwards, of looking at our unconscious, of looking at what is making us act and say and be the people we are being. Are we aware of those parts of ourself, and can we bring those to light? And can we bring those to light and not be too afraid to do that? So, fundamentalist thought keeps us from going to those deep places. We often look at fundamental religions and kind of go, oh, they're very shallow, they're very surface, they're very literal, right? And that's exactly what they're doing. They're saying, let's stay on the surface level. these are the words, this is what they mean, and because going to a deeper perspective requires this other safety, this other sense of curiosity, this other sense of, okay, we may end up with paradoxically different beliefs and feelings and thoughts when we get to deeper into this, and I guess like the one paradoxical thing is, we're separate as a unique being and we're all one. That's a paradox, right? We aren't just all one being and we aren't just separate beings. We're kind of somehow both. And I think whenever you look deeper into any type of belief pattern, you end up at these kind of unsolvable problems, right? These kind of mathematical impossibilities that describe our experience. And so they don't leave us feeling like, I've got it all sorted out. I've done it all nicely with a bow. It's perfectly done. The way that fundamentalist thoughts and beliefs and religions kind of say, here's the rule book. Do step 1, 2, and 3, and everything's good for you. And so again, to be okay in the face of uncertainty, to be safe and to feel able to be present in the face of not knowing what the hell is going to happen next, what's going on, how do we stay in that present moment? These have been things we've worked with for centuries. And I would say that, many paths have potential practices that help us do this, whether it's meditation, whether it's breath work, whether it's yoga, whether it's getting body work, whether it's mindfulness, writing. All of these things help, nature bathing, like work us towards feeling okay in the moment with things that don't always make sense. So when we're in extreme stress, how can we get out of extreme stress? Well, it's kind of the same as you might say if someone's traumatized, how do you kind of help them feel safe? You maybe put a blanket on them, you give them some water, you try to take them to a quiet place where they can just kind of sit or be with themselves or walk in nature. All of these things help. And so, if you're finding that you're always on edge now and that you just, can't open up your mind to accept anyone else's opinions or anyone else's beliefs or anyone else's humanness, maybe take a step back and look at whether you're feeling unsafe. Are you feeling inherently unsafe in the world? Are you feeling really stressed about what's happening for yourself, for the world, for the planet? And, how can you cultivate a sense of safety in yourself? Whether that's just, putting one hand on your heart. You can do that with me now, actually. Just take a hand, whichever hand you like, or both hands, put them over your heart, so in the middle of your chest. And a really nice practice is just to take a moment to feel that hand. Like sometimes I actually move it around on my chest to actually feel my hand there, the warmth. And take a breath and breathe out and just notice that your heart is beating. And take another breath and breathe out and just notice again that your heart is beating. And for that couple of seconds where you were just noticing, you probably didn't stay in that fear. You were just noticing, hey, my heart's beating and I'm breathing in and I'm breathing out. And even if it's just for 2 seconds and then, now you get back to your usual worries, just connecting in like that multiple times a day, whenever you need it, is a really good start. And this is often the way I start my coaching with couples is, put one hand on your own heart, one hand on the heart of your partner. And you both do that and you just take a moment to connect. You both have a heart beating, you're both breathing together and you're here in this space. And that is the beginning of opening yourself up to being curious then what might happen or who this person is or just how you show up to this relationship, there's a little bit of openness there. There's a little bit of curiosity. There's a little bit of kind of an energy, right? An excitement. It's intimacy. It's relationship. It's connection. These things are energizing to our bodies and to our minds. We want to connect with people. We want to feel that. So, taking a moment to connect with yourself, take a moment to connect with your partner. It's, if you do have someone that you share living space with and you sleep with them, it can be a really nice time to connect, just the breath. Especially if your partner's asleep. I mean, assuming you have consent to breathe with them while they're asleep. But, put your hand on their chest and just feel that breath in and out. It's so soothing, right? We're here with our, partner and we're breathing together. Can help us that connection, help us feel that connection and help us feel less stressed. And, many of the people that I saw during the pandemic, in the last 2 years, their stress levels went up when they didn't have someone to connect with on this sort of physical, very fundamental level. They could just end up getting in their heads, not having that contact. And I think this is why many of us went to, many dogs and cats and pets got adopted over the last 2 years, because we need to feel that connection. And this helps us get out of that fundamentalist thinking. And we need to get out of the fundamentalist thinking, or we're going to end up in deep trouble. The world, we can't come up with creative solutions when we're all, stuck in old patterned thinking, habitual ways of thinking, and reactive to what's going on and not really listening to each other. So there's a lot at stake here. This is a big topic. So finding a way to connect with yourself, finding this very gentle way to connect with another human. And if you don't have the opportunity to connect with another human physically, you can absolutely do this with a tree or a plant or the ground, a rock. I mean, natural objects are really great to connect with. I'm sure it also works to a certain extent connecting with anything, but naturally produced things, I think, have some sort of life force that really help ground. I have one client who's really using her horses to connect with right now, and horses are amazing. So we want to find these little parts of connection to help bring out that compassion, that love, that acceptance. I'm here, you're here. We're both here. We don't have to be right. We don't have to figure out a solution necessarily. We just need to be open to possibility. So I just wanted to put that out there, that if you notice that you've fallen into some fundamentalist type of beliefs, and again, this requires us to actually be able to look at ourselves honestly a little bit. But if you find that I'm finding that I'm getting stuck taking sides, that I'm getting into a lot of arguments with my friends and family, that I'm needing to have people hear my side of things. If you find yourself getting there, this is a great podcast for you to really listen to and really take in the fact that you're not going to feel that connection. You're not going to get that co-regulation of being with somebody if you are needing to be right. There's that famous saying, I'm either right or married. And I think that really does sum it up. We can't have a fundamental belief that we have to be right, or that our way of thinking is right. We have to be open to many ways of being right. But basically, we just need to be open to meeting another person where they are and being open to what that connection could be. So, hopefully this gives you something to kind of chew on a little bit over the next week or a couple weeks until we come together again on our live show here at my podcast. And hopefully you will kind of digest this and see where it takes you. And let me know if you find that your connections are starting to deepen, that you're able to take a breath, that you're able to feel less stressed less traumatized by the last couple of years. I think honestly, the fate of humankind kind of depends on us being able to move through stressful situations without falling into taking sides or fundamentalist thinking. So let me know how this goes for you. And I hope to have you again join me on my podcast, Pleasure for Health podcast. You can also look me up on my website, pleasureforhealth.com. And, make sure you stay in touch, sign up for my newsletter. And I look forward to having you back with me on Podbean. Thanks so much.